Welcome to the All About Digital Marketing podcast. The show all about
digital marketing.
Digital marketing.
digital marketing.
Digital marketing.
Brought to you by Social Link, a digital marketing agency specializing in social media and content marketing for brave brands and forward-thinking SMEs. I'm your host, Chris Bruno, and as always, we're here to bring you the most actionable tips, tricks, tools, and insights to help you achieve more when it comes to your digital marketing. Subscribe to the show and be sure to share with a friend if you found something useful or interesting. You can find all the show notes and more information on www.allaboutdigitalmarketing.co.uk. Adam, thank you very much for joining me today.
Thank you ever so much, Chris, for having me on the show. Looking forward to it.
Well, it's an absolute pleasure, and we have actually met before. I was very lucky to be invited onto your podcast, so thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah.
But for those of you out there that don't know Adam runs Think Like a Fish. I'm not going to try and do the introductions because I've never been very good at them, but Adam, tell everyone a little bit about yourself and Think Like a Fish.
Yeah, well, my name's, as I say, Adam King. I call myself the captain here at Think Like a Fish because, well, I've got this whole fishing analogy going on. I like to have a bit of fun in business and all the rest of it. And I just think it's a little bit less boring than CEO or founder, but that's just my weird sense of humour. Think Like a Fish. We're a growth marketing consultancy, and I am also host of the Client Catching podcast that you mentioned that you were on, where essentially that's one of my favourite things to do in a week. Interviewing successful service business owners, entrepreneurs, marketing experts who've pretty much scaled their business to sort of seven figures, or they're very much on their way to getting there, discovering exactly how they've done that, and sharing that with the audience and hopefully giving them some ideas of doing it themselves.
Awesome. So in terms of when we talk about growth marketing consultant, for those out there that probably don't really understand exactly what that means or how that sort of what that looks like, I should say. For small to mid-sized businesses, growth is obviously imperative. So what are the sort of things that you do when you're working with companies to try and help them along that journey? Well,
when you get to a certain level, you start to realize that the things that have got you there are not the things that are going to get you to that next level. So a lot of the people that I work with, they come to me having hit this almost like a plateau or a glass ceiling that they just can't seem to get through. So one of the things that we look at is, or the way that I work is looking really at three major things. And I call them growth accelerators. And they form part of what I call the growth accelerator ecosystem. Now, I know that's a swear word in your world. And if I keep saying that, I am going to end up owing you and your team a few drinks because we had that conversation that the word ecosystem is a bit of a swear word, but I use it because I don't like the word funnel. I just don't like the way that it just doesn't sound particularly personal. But the growth accelerators that we focus on, it's three things. It's authority, alliances, and assets. Because what I've found with these is that it actually then simplifies what you focus on and your activities that are all designed to attract clients, open up potential sales opportunities and all that kind of thing. And they are the things that I've found over the last 16 years that I've been doing this. They're the things that make the biggest difference and have the biggest impact, specifically on a business that's been established for a number of years. But they're hitting that growth plateau. So they need to sort of focus on something different and be very specific in what they're doing moving forward.
So there's two bits that I want to pick up on that. The first one is we did talk about the horrible word ecosystem, but again, we don't actually mind it. It was just at the time when that was going terribly wrong, but that was for some other reason. The interesting thing when you say that though is people obviously get stuck into this idea that a funnel is going to change everything. They see somebody online advertising, this is the magic funnel, the way to do X. And I see it for all sorts of things. And we've seen examples, and I'm sure you have as well, whether it's, the agency model is dead. If you don't get this sort of funnel as quickly as possible, your business will go under. There's a lot of sort of scare tactics and this magic button that with this magic formula, A plus B equals millions of dollars. We've spoken about this before. I think this is an absolute crock in terms of one funnel fits all is going to make you money, because I've never seen that happen and I've never seen that work. What's your opinion on the side of funnels there? Just to sort of pick up on the fact that you did say I don't like using the word, but what's the reasoning behind it?
Well, the reason I don't like the word funnel is it sounds very impersonal. And at the end of the day, a lot of the ethos that I have around what I do, marketing and all that sort of stuff, is that at its core, marketing and business, it's all about people. And we forget sometimes that behind every single one of these metrics, right? How many people you get into your funnel, how many clicks you get, how many followers you get, all that kind of thing, that behind every single one of those is a real human being that has problems that they want to solve. They're struggling with a particular aspect in their life or business, and they actually want a solution for that problem. And the word funnel just to me just feels like, right, well, we're just going to try and put as many people through this as quickly as possible. And we don't really mind what happens to the people that fall out. We just want the ones at the bottom because that's the thing that's going to make us money in the business. And maybe it's not exactly how it's seen or perceived or used, but for me, it's a terminology thing. And that's why I like ecosystem, because ecosystem to me is not simply the tools and the tactics, but ecosystem to me encompasses everybody and all the people that come into contact with you and your business. Now, that could be your clients. It could be people that never do business with you, but get value from the content and the things that you put out in the world. As I say, one of the big growth accelerators for me is alliances. So that is partners, collaborative partners, all of that sort of thing. So the whole idea of an ecosystem is if you focus on the client needs first and you make everything around your business about client need, then you almost stop having to wonder, what am I going to do this week to market my business? Because you flip the question and you start asking questions of your clients, of your market. What are you struggling with? What do you need? And then rather than sometimes thinking, right, I have to do all this myself, or, oh, I don't do that, so I'm not going to worry about it. You start to put the client needs in the center of everything. And those alliances, they become effectively what you can call your upstream and your downstream alliance partners. And you realize that your client is only with you for a very specific part of their overall journey in business, in life, and all the rest of it. They're going to have problems before they get to you. Your solution is essentially the answer to a problem that has been created by somebody else solving another problem, which also means conversely that your solution is going to cause a problem that somebody else has a solution for, but you don't. So I see it as that sort of thing. You start to almost create your own clients in a way, grow them. That's the whole ecosystem thing. It takes on a life of its own, but you become far more of, that holistic solution provider to your client. Because if they've worked with you and then they need something afterwards, if you have alliances and partners that you've done your vetting and your due diligence and you know what they do is good, you actually then save your client an awful lot of headache and worry, thinking, right, I've got to now go out and find this particular solution and I'm back at square one and I have no idea who to go for. Whereas because you've got your ecosystem and that part of that ecosystem encompasses your partners and your alliance partners, you have the ability to make positive recommendations, endorsements based on your experience of these people and having known what they're like. And actually that just makes your client's life a lot easier and it starts to feed back round.
It's really interesting, actually, the way you've said that. So from our side of things, and I think it's under the authority kind of side of things, what you're talking about there. But we talk a lot about putting social back into social media, and you've mentioned it all there as well. People forget that you're not doing business B2B. B2B is a myth in the sense of it's one business transacting with another business, but none of these businesses are robots that are just talking to each other and automatically doing a deal. Both B's are represented by a C very much. So actually, you're really talking about talking to someone, who that person is, how they respond to you, what they believe and how they think and what they need at the time is going to be the most important deciding factor as to whether the B2B transaction goes through. And it's something that, again, when you mentioned there, waking up in the morning, I don't know what to post. I'm no good at writing. I don't know what to blog about. I can't do all of the excuses, and we've heard them all over the years, and we've probably even said a few of them ourselves over the years at certain points. But the biggest thing is that, what does your audience want? What do your clients want? What are the perceived opportunities from their point of view to find and learn more about X, Y, understand better about the product, understand how to use the product better, understand why they need the product better, whatever that might be. But that's absolutely huge. And it's so simple, such as asking a question.
Yeah.
The amount of companies that I still see today where brands are literally using their social media platform to just constantly go 10% off, 20% off, buy one, get one free, have a look at this. This is new. Here's a product. Buy this one, special offer. And you're sitting there going, Jesus Christ, like there's no value add whatsoever for the audience.
Well, just you sort of shouting that at me, I almost turned off the camera and left because it just, that kind of feels icky, doesn't it? It's like, if that's all the information that is being put out there by a business, you're just going to, people tune out. And there is so much information being bombarded at us today. And so many advertising messages, so many marketing messages that like from an evolutionary perspective, our brains have not caught up to the ability to actually process all of this information. So that's why having an approach that is actually different, that's why authority is a huge growth accelerator, because it becomes the ultimate social proof. Having something like a podcast, having a platform is huge. Just think about musicians, rock bands, actors, all that kind of thing. Why do they get paid a lot of money? Because they have a platform, they have a stage, and they're not doing it one-to-one. Because if they were doing it one-to-one, it'd just be like they're playing a guitar to their friend in their room, which wouldn't make them, the multimillionaire rock stars that they are, that kind of thing. Yeah. And to me, being able to cut through the noise, as I say, authority, or having that platform where you're able to really publish your expertise, show your expertise, add value, but also express your own unique opinion and worldview. It's very, very different from plastering, buy now, discount this, blah, 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 all that kind of thing, because people get to know you. I mean, this conversation, we're having a conversation, and it's not like we're not saying buy now. We're not saying discount this, discount that. We're having a conversation about something that's valuable to a particular type of audience. I'm expressing my worldview in some of this. I talk about my fishing analogy, for example. That's strategically created as part of my messaging, because it's going to attract the kind of people that have the similar sort of sense of humor, but it's going to repel those that find it irritating. And quite honestly, I know some people do, but that's fine with me. And it's interesting to come back to something that you sort of touched on. It's that whole, the B2B or the B2C or anything like that. And I completely agree. And I remember seeing a talk by Ryan Dice of Digital Marketer, and he actually is a very big believer that this does not exist. He calls it H2H, human to human. And I've heard it also described as P2P, and everyone starts putting their own little letters on everything, person to person, because it comes back again. It's all to do with people. And I think when it comes to social media, we do forget, as you say, putting the social back in social media, because it is about people. And we just forget for some reason, often when somebody thinks, oh, this is a marketing channel, all the rules of human manners and decency and decorum just seem to just go out the window. And that's the reason why it's like, right, this is about me. I want it to be all about me. I'm going to shout louder. I'm going to just try and get as many people into my funnel as possible and, bash them down until they, feel that sort of sense of scarcity and fear and all that kind of thing, that they're absolutely, they have to buy, because if they don't, their entire world is going to explode. That's kind of, again, coming back to the reason I don't like funnel. Sometimes it can feel like that, because that's what we think we need to do, whereas it really isn't.
No, I think there's certain techniques from a sales point of view that have been taken to the nth degree now, and they've gone too far. So, everything having that element of fear of loss, everything having that urgency, everything kind of being pushed in front of people like that. And I think it gets a little bit boring from my point of view as a marketer. I don't really like that. I'm not saying it doesn't have its place. So obviously, if you're doing a Black Friday sale, you can put a timer up on the website, because, it's a sale and it's got a certain amount of time and it's not going to be available the next day or whatever else. But I think we have gone down the route of marketers trying to push as many of the techniques in sales as possible and slap it all in, like you said, into a funnel, which is so wide that it's capturing at the initial stages, or at least it's being targeted to the initial stages of absolutely anyone and everyone. and I'm going to play a little bit on your F2F analogy. So I'm going to go with a fish to fish analogy for your
I like that.
ecosystem. So, but the idea being, when you talk about that, you wouldn't go and try and catch a tuna in a small pond in West Sussex, for example. Like, it'd be mental. You're just not going to find that audience there. You're not going to find that right fish there in any way, shape or form. And I think when you talk to people and they say, well, no, I've looked at this and I got it. My funnels are, I'm going to start here, and then here I get a little bit less, and then here I get a little bit less. And then basically by here, I'm going to get 3 clients for every 1,000 that come in at the beginning. And you're sat there going, okay, well, wait, before you spend all this time and all this work on this, what would happen if you had real conversations with 20 people on LinkedIn, as opposed to trying to get 1,000 people from social down to 3 real conversations at the end of it? And you sort of, when you mention that and you kind of twist that around, people kind of look at you a bit funny because, one, well, aren't you a digital marketer? Isn't that what you do? Don't you create these things? You go, yeah, we can, but I'm not saying that I want to. And to be honest with you, I don't think it would get you the same results. We had a conversation literally end of last week. Phenomenal lady, really, really smart, super switched on for everything to do with legislations for schools. Now, this is a really hyper niche market. It's for independent schools only, one thing or another. And literally, somebody else has said to her, what you want to do is brand new website, brand new this, brand new that, loads of funnels and this, that, and the other. And we're sort of sat there going, by the sounds of what you've told us, you've got a really, really niche audience. There's a limited number of them. And to be honest with you, there's nothing stopping you within the next 12 months for contacting every single one of them individually, one-to-one. Now, that's going to bring huge results, I believe, in comparison to trying to do a funnel where you're going to hit everybody and anybody and then try and shift those down from the ones that actually are at an independent school or aren't, and one thing like that. And when you look at that model and you start saying to people, you can do online, offline, and you can even bring offline techniques into online. And again, we're back to being social, using social media in a social way. How do we get as many conversations as possible and the best possible quality of conversations? And I think that's where people really kind of miss out. And I don't know what your thoughts are on that sort of side of things.
Absolutely. And I have a bit of a term when it comes to this whole ethos, this whole approach, or it's really the core strategy that I work with my clients to implement. And I call it the strategy of conversational relationship marketing. And what this really is, it's a non-salesy, non-pushy approach to creating conversations with a specific group of human beings that you can either add value to, potentially do business with, or collaborate with to open doors, create opportunities for each other. And that's why that whole thing of being simple, or I have a little a growth formula, let's call it. It's simplicity plus focus equals growth. Because when you simplify the things that you focus your time, efforts, money, resources on doing, you get to focus on the things that are going to make the biggest difference. One of those, by the way, is your client. And it just means that you just remove all of the other distractions, because that's one of the hardest things. The business world, marketing world in general, it's just become so oversaturated with tactics, and it's overwhelming. So we don't really know what to do. And some of these ideas around funnels and all the, right, just do this one tactic, it will solve all your problems and all the rest of it. It can be incredibly seductive, especially when you've got a million other things to do that comes with running a business. And so we just get, just pulled towards that. Very, very smart people. I've been caught by things like that. And I think, oh, there's a shiny thing over there. I'm going to go and give that a go because maybe it's that shortcut. We're constantly looking for shortcuts, but the truth is they do not exist. You might get lucky with a tactic. Well done. Can you repeat it?
No.
Probably not. I actually say sometimes one of the worst things that can happen with your marketing or with your business growth or anything like that is you get lucky at the first go because you don't learn anything. You have no frame of reference and you don't know if you can do it again. It just might have been right time, right place, all that kind of thing. And then 6 months down the line, you've pretty much bet the house on it, and then it just stops working.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point. So we, I think it was with Travis, who's built now 2 SaaS platforms that have done phenomenally well. And he's been working on this now for coming up to 5 years, asking him the question and just sort of said, sorry, more than 5 years, I think. But I said to him, how many landing pages, sales pages, squeeze pages do you think you've written in that time over the 2 SaaS products? And he went, I don't know, but hundreds. If you include squeeze pages and everything else, we're in the thousands. And that's the point where I was like, that's the key there. That's why he can replicate the success. And when he does offers and when he does new things, they usually end up working, because the frame of reference for his particular business is so wide. He understands what's worked, what hasn't, but the small nuances of what has and what hasn't. And, the guy isn't necessarily the world's greatest copywriter. He's not necessarily the world's greatest developer, but he's got the understanding and the vision to be able to step back and see his business as what needs to be done, and to focus on those right things based on experience, which again is what you're saying. When you sign up for that special tactic and you press 3 buttons and it suddenly works and you get a client and you go, this is great. What I'll do is I'll take all the money from this client and throw it back in. And then you don't actually realize that it was complete luck. The person just happened to find you through something else, or a friend recommended them or something else, and you don't realize that the two weren't linked at all. Then you miss the point and you don't actually learn the fact that this is all a journey and a process. There is I haven't found a magic button. And in fact, when we have conversations with clients that are basically saying to me, what's the one thing I need to do to make sure that I start getting leads? And I'm like, wow, I don't know, man.
Well, I can tell you the one thing that you need to do to get a consistent amount of leads. It's go back and look at your strategy. What is it that you are trying to do? Because that's one of the things. Tactics on their own are not going to solve any kind of marketing or growth challenge, because done in isolation, as we say, you could get lucky. They may, by the way, every single tactic out there works, but only if they're done properly and as part of a cohesive strategy that has been thought about and considered. Because really the tactics without the strategy, they just end up fighting the symptoms of the challenge. They never get to the core, the real cause, because the symptom that a lot of people are fighting is essentially not being able to consistently attract the actual number of clients that they need to consistently generate revenue that they can then use to predictably move to the next level and grow their business. And they fight that with those tactics, with those paid ads, with the fancy funnels, or cold calling, going to every networking event in a 50-mile radius and just thrusting business cards in people's hands, or posting on social media 100 times a day, but just wanting to pull their hair out because they don't like doing it. And it's one of those things that, if you really think about it, the root causes of that challenge, or all of your challenges, is having no clear strategy, no consistency, no structure, and no measurable process. So go back to the beginning.
Yeah, I think that last bit especially, no measurable process.
Yeah.
We can't stress enough to people, having some goals, having some KPIs. Don't worry, you can change them. So if you set them as, I want 1,000 visitors a day to my website and 500 leads a month, and then you realize that's not quite as realistic, you can reset them for next month. It's not a problem. But having something that can help you determine whether or not you're getting closer to or moving further away from what you are trying to achieve. And it's something that, we've had conversations with companies that have been spending money for a long time with agency or a small agency or somewhere else. And they literally said to us, when we asked the question, how's it going? What are the results looking like? Are you getting the results that you wanted? And they sort of went, what results? Social media, we just do it because we have to stay online and we have to show that we're on social. So you've got no game plan, no goal, nothing that you're trying to achieve as part of that. And the room went silent and everyone sort of went, oh, hang on a second. We need to have a chat with somebody, because, we've been spending money for nearly 2 years, spending it on an agency to do this stuff for us with zero sort of clarity on what you're actually trying to get out of it, which is crazy. Like, you wouldn't start a business with that idea.
Yeah. People are doing things they think they should be doing because they see that's what everybody else is doing. But that's one of the worst things you can do. I mean, there is a term in the marketing field, funnel hacking, and looking at what people have got out there and sort of analyzing what they've done. And there is some merit to it, because you actually get to see decent sort of ways of structuring copy or good offers, and you can learn a lot from that. However, you don't see what's under the surface. You don't see what's gone into it. And anyone that has found that one funnel that they're away from doing everything, you don't see the 100 others that they've tried and launched before that. You haven't seen the strategic input that's got into it. Because, again, I try and simplify things and break it down. And if I were to ask you, Chris, what do you need to get to any destination you want to go to? If you're going to Bali, right?
Yes.
So what do you need to get to Bali?
I needed to find a flight and figure out some company that would actually take me from A to B to then C.
Let's go more simple than that. Let's go even more simple. And I'll give you a clue. You need 3 things to get to Bali.
This is bad now, because actually now all I'm actually thinking about is Bali. I'm not thinking about marketing. So I need my swim shorts, my dive watch, and basically another spare pair of shorts so I can keep diving every day.
Well, I've put you on the spot there, so I'm going to put you out your misery because, I don't want you to want to end this conversation too early.
Hang on a second, though. But what I would say is you need to have the idea of where you want to go. It doesn't matter what it is, where it is. So the inclination that that's what you are. You're going to need the means and the resources to be able to make that happen to get to anywhere else. And then ultimately, you've got to have that desire, that want to understand that I want to go from A to B, let's say, and understanding that that's a transition of, how do I get from A to B?
Yeah. Well, I'm going to give you maybe 75% score there.
Better than school. Here we go.
Basically, the 3 things that you need to get to any destination. Now, this applies whether you're going on a trip, but it also applies on how you're going to go about marketing your business or how you're going to go about growing your business. The first thing you need to know is where you are now. What's your starting point? The second is where you want to get to. What's your destination? And then the third, how are you going to get there? So with the trip example, it's what mode of transport am I going to take? Planes, trains, automobiles, that kind of thing. And it's generally a combination of the two, especially if you're going to Bali. You wouldn't cycle all the way there, or you'd be a little bit mad. But that's on the flip side. If you don't have any of that, to continue my nautical references, you're kind of drifting on the open ocean in a rudderless boat, right? Because if you don't have any of that, you are literally a victim of the current, and you just end up where you end up. And when I bring that back to the way of thinking about marketing and growing a business and all the rest of it, if you don't have your strategy dialed in, you don't know your destination, then you don't know where you're going to. So you're just going to kind of end up anywhere. It means that the logic that people are going, if they don't do this, the logic that they are applying is like, it's a bit, you referenced it earlier. It's a big ocean. And there's a lot of fish in there. So surely I can just cast my line in anywhere and, I'll catch a fish. Well, maybe, but you actually don't know because you've been a victim of that current if there are any fish down there. And if there are, what kind of fish they are, whether you have the right bait that they are actually going to bite on. And I often say, think of it this way. No matter how much you love chocolate cake, you're never going to catch a fish with chocolate cake because they like worms, right? It just doesn't happen. So, if you are literally drifting along, then you are relying on luck and hope, and you are a victim of that current. And as I say, in 16 years of doing this, I can pretty much narrow every 95% of marketing challenges and problems down to the fact that they haven't spent the time required to get their strategy and their plan right.
It's a scary number, and I'd have to agree with you, but I'd say 95% is, you're probably actually being slightly kind. It's scary. And companies that are spending real money on Facebook, on ads, on Google, on SEO, on content creation, and yet at the same time, you sort of say to them, well, what are the goals? What are the objectives? What are you trying to track? What are the KPIs that are important to you? And at that time, you kind of see that people start talking to you about things like engagement, likes, audience size, stuff like that, the vanity metrics that we all kind of gasp at if you've ever done this properly and you've looked into this for any kind of amount of time. And it actually scares me. I find it quite disconcerting, the amount of people, like I said, with real budgets, like spending real money on this. I don't know, anyone that's out there that's listening to this, give Adam a shout or talk to me as well. We'll happily give you a 30-minute call for free, or even two of us will jump on just to kind of importantly tell you how much you just need to spend that little bit of time. And the other thing I want to say as well, and I'm hoping you'll agree with me on this, Adam, so many people say to me, yeah, okay, so I'm going to spend all this time doing this strategy, and what happens if it doesn't work? You've set up all these things and you've said you're going to do it like this and you're going to do it like that, and then you test it and it doesn't work. And I'm sat there thinking, or saying actually to people straight up, that's the whole point of the strategy document, because that will then edit, become better, it will learn, it'll become an all-purpose kind of living document, on the sense of as you've tried, as you've tested, as you've learned things from it, you're going to be able to adapt that, and you're going to be able to change that so quickly that actually suddenly your KPIs are going to be updated on a monthly basis or a weekly basis, depending on how much you're doing. You're then going to start changing your funnels, ecosystems, what it is that you're trying to do, how it is that you're trying to engage with people, but you're also going to realize what's actually important. And, when you first set out, you might start with, we need 100 people coming to see our latest blog article every single week. And then actually a couple of months down the line, you're going to realize you don't actually care. You want to know how many people hit the CTA at the bottom of the blog as a percentage of how many people actually viewed it. That's going to be a far more interesting conversion rate for you to track and then to monitor. Would you agree with that in that sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And the way that I sort of think of it is marketing, all of this, it's a mix of art and science. And the science is, yes, it's the metrics, it's knowing your numbers and all the rest of it. And there has to be, as much as I don't like the word funnel, it is important to measure those metrics and have those metrics. But the art side of it is, it's really knowing how to communicate, the words to use. And art is subjective, and it's something that opinions will change. Your message will change over time. The things that you talk, because as you say, a strategy is not a navel gazing exercise that is done by marketers that sort of spend all their time sitting in offices, staring at clouds and sitting on big inflatable balls and playing with toys all the time. Like, that's not what a strategy document is. The strategy document is the single most important thing that you can create in your business, only if you use it.
Yeah. That's a very good add-on at the end there.
Right. So yeah, it's knowing what goes into that sort of strategy document as well. And for me, there's a lot that goes into it, but I can simplify it down into essentially four things. The first is that destination, that goal. So ask yourself the question, all right, what do I need to have done to be happy with my growth progress that I can realistically fulfill on in the next 12 months? What does that revenue number look like? And then how many clients does that translate into? And then look at your current performance. How many conversations, serious conversations, do I need to have where I make an offer to a potential client and they say yes for that to happen? Now, I don't know, let's say that's 2 in 10. You speak to 10 people and 2 of those become a client. Well, that's a frame of reference. Yep. That's a number you can now look at and think, okay, I could maybe improve on that. But then you've got to go a little bit further back and go, okay, how many leads do I need to generate that will create those conversations? And if it's 2 in 10, and let's say you want 12 clients a year, I'm bad at maths in my head, but I think it's like 60 conversations or something like that. So how many leads do I need to generate in order to create those 60 conversations? And I define a lead as essentially anyone that is suffering from the problem that you solve, and they self-select that they are interested in solving that problem by passing you their contact details and opting into your ecosystem, so that essentially you can deliver them value, and most importantly, follow up with them over time and nurture and educate, etc., etc. Build that trust. That's what a lead is to me. It's not a prospect is someone that is educated and nurtured enough to want to have a conversation with you about the potential of solving their problem. So you work backwards, and let's say 2 out of 100 leads go on to having a conversation. Well, that means, quick maths in my head, but 3,000 leads you need to make in a year to make your goal. Now you have a frame of reference, and you can look at all the kind of tactics and things that you're going to do over the 12 months to create those, because that is vital. Because unless you kind of understand those numbers, you're not entirely sure which tactics are going to be relevant for you. Because if you need 10 clients a year, for example, that will dictate one set of tactics. If you need 1,000, you're going to need an entirely different suite of tactics.
Couldn't agree more. And it's something that we often have a conversation about. And you sit there and say, how many clients do you need to make this into a super viable business for you? I'm not saying to make it into a unicorn. I'm not talking about that. I don't think people should focus on any of those sort of tactics and things that Uber does and Airbnb does, because you're just 90% of us, 95% of us just aren't there yet. It's much more simple than that. But when I talk to people and they'll say things like, Facebook doesn't work, Twitter doesn't work, videos don't work, live doesn't work because they've tried once and it failed. And I'm sat there going, how many people do you actually need to make this into a viable business? If you're an accountant, if you're a management consultant, if you're a digital marketing consultant, if you're a freelance writer, it doesn't matter. But for you to be happy, you want to earn X. So, okay, fine. Every month you want to earn X. And that relates to, like you said, how many clients. And people invariably end up saying things like, well, I need 2 a month. And you go, well, hang on a second, now we're talking. So how many conversations have you had in the last 6 months and how many of those turn into to clients? And as soon as you've broken that down, you're going, okay, so basically what we're saying is we only actually need to find the right 24 people in the space of a year to make your business viable. I was like, that's what we should be focusing on. So not being afraid to divide opinions, not being afraid for people to say, wow, I don't want to work with that guy because he just keeps talking about fish. Or, for example, that guy who keeps talking about putting social into social media, like what a dumbass. And that's fine. I don't mind that either. I'm not the right fit for 90% of the people that I come across and that I meet on a daily basis. And I'm okay with that as well. I've got a funny way that I don't edit necessarily everything that comes out of my mouth quick enough to be able to make everybody happy. But again, I'm okay with that. I'm okay having the hard conversations with a client and saying, we were talking about doing this. You said you'd send me that. You haven't done it. Without that, we can't do anything. You're wasting your time. You're wasting my time. You're wasting your money, and nothing's going to happen. And we're not going to get those 2 clients we need every month to make sure that your business is actually moving in the right direction. And that's something that's really hard for so many people to understand. If you're so vanilla that you're trying to please everybody, you'll end up attracting nobody. I honestly believe that.
Yeah. And, to continue the my annoying fishing analogy, but no, as I've said, like it's done on purpose. This is part of, if we were going back to the strategy piece, one of the other pieces that is vital is your message, and making sure that your message attracts the right kind of people with the kind of things that you say, but also repels the ones that aren't the right fit. And that is something that a lot of people don't really focus on. Because the value of actually not having everyone attracted to you, it's not a popularity contest. This whole game is not about being popular. It's not about being liked. The whole irony of liking things on social media. You're not there as a business to be liked. You're there to be valuable to a very specific group of people. And as you say, most people that I speak to, service businesses, they couldn't handle 1,000 clients if they came over a year. They couldn't handle more than 5 in a month. It would break their business because they don't have the infrastructure behind them. So the way I kind of look at it is, if you are repelling with your message, it's actually better for you as a business, because what is the most valuable asset that you have in your business? I say it's time.
It's the only one that you can't get many more of.
It's the only one you cannot get enough of. And once it's gone, it's gone. And so by strategically creating a messaging and an approach and a strategy that is designed to maximize the value of your one-on-one time that you spend with potential clients, et cetera, you then, again, it becomes an accelerator of your growth. So sometimes a lot of people say to them, when I say things like that, they're like, well, but I want to help a lot of people. And especially if you're, I don't like the term, but a heart-centered business or something like that. The whole irony with that term, when somebody goes, well, I don't really like marketing and it feels icky and all the rest of it. Well, if you're not marketing and you genuinely help and add value to people, you're actually going against your value by not doing it. Because if you are a heart-centered business, and I don't know how I got onto heart-centered, but if you're that, then by not doing it, by not helping more people, you're actually not, you're doing a disservice. And the way that you are able to help more people is by focusing on the value, on the client needs, by producing valuable content in whatever form you decide. I mean, a podcast is one example. It's the one that I primarily use. You could use video, you could use blog posts, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. It's as long as you are consistent with it and put it out regularly. And that means that you're able to help people on a larger scale. But you protect ruthlessly yours and your team's one-on-one time to only focus on the people that are aware of the problem and they're ready to solve it right now. And that will grow your business, because the amount of time that you can save, if you save something like just 10 hours a week, it adds up to something like 400 or so working days per person per year.
It's crazy. Like, and I agree with you as well. Like, it's the amount of time and effort people put in sometimes to the wrong things. And again, even having the clarity to understand that because somebody dropped you a contact form request on your website, that to me still isn't necessarily a hot lead. You don't know until you actually sort of have that conversation and everything else. But getting somebody on the phone and to talk about something very, very specific because they've seen you, they've heard whatever it is, or however the medium that you choose to, or that you feel comfortable with, at that point, that conversation is 10 times more likely to yield something. And I say yield something, I don't just mean for you, the person selling, but actually in terms of yielding results for them as well. So the hard thing from our point of view, and again, I'm sure you've seen this and you've had this as well, and I think we may have even covered it slightly on your podcast, but it's this idea that, there's only so much I can do to help a business. And then at some point, they need to start helping themselves as well. And if they're not willing to, or if they don't actually follow through with certain parts or certain things that need to be done, then there's nothing I can do. I can go as far as I can. And my dad's old analogy that he used to talk about was, you could take the horse to the fountain, but you can't make him drink. And the honest truth is that it's exactly that. I can do so much, but I don't know your business as well as you will. I never will. I need your input to understand what's going on. I need your point of view on certain industry things that are happening, so as I can then help to create whatever it is that we're doing, or however it is that we're sort of creating the content behind. But there's a lot of people actually out there that if you're going and chasing the wrong leads and you're getting the wrong people, I end up calling them bad prophets. You make money, which is great. Happy days. Everyone wants to make money, especially in those early days. And then you realize very quickly this is the hardest money that you've ever had to try and earn. And in fact, it's the kind of money that you could earn and still go bankrupt earning, which is insane.
Yeah. Not every pound or dollar is created equal from a client. And my analogy a lot along that, again, it's kind of the nautical thing. It's like, I can build you a ship, but I cannot create the wind to move you. And that's all about the motivation and the kind of thing that you need to sort of bring when you work with any kind of either external provider, or if you hire an internal team or anything like that. If you're the business owner, I'm afraid the buck stops with you. You are responsible for where you are now. And that's one of the hardest things to actually accept when you start your own business. It's one thing that I completely never really appreciated when I started a business, because when you work for somebody else, you can always sort of, always got it in your back pocket that you can go, oh yeah, but it was the guys at the top that made that decision, and it was, it didn't work because of that. But when you are the guy at the top, everything rests on you. Where you are now is a direct result of the choices that you have made, and I say primarily how you invest your time. And if you're investing your time in the wrong things, the wrong tactics, you're wasting time on certain things, it means that you're probably wasting money in other areas, and it just eats away. And then suddenly you're 6 months, 12 months down the road, and you're looking at this and going, hang on, why hasn't this worked? And so you're looking for someone else to blame. It comes back to you when you're at the top, and it's a hard thing to realize, but conversely, it's also empowering, because when you realize it's all about the choices that you can make starting today. If you make the right choices on how you spend your time, you invest in the right things, you get your strategy right, you build your assets and your systems and your teams and all that kind of thing, that will create momentum that will have a positive knock-on effect in the next month, year, 2 years, etc. And that's how you will grow your business. Yeah,
and I think that's one of the big things that we tell, especially small businesses. If you are just starting out and everything else, you're completely right. The buck stops with you. It's up to you what happens next, how it happens, and everything else. But at the same time, you're also the champion for the business. When you are a small business, people want to work with you, not the business. And this is again where this B2B illusion. People have a nice business card and it's got a logo and their director, and they hand it out. Yeah. Give us a call. It's you. Like, ultimately, especially until there is more than just you, it is just you. So just embrace it, take that on board and use it to your advantage, because people who meet you and that like you will want to work with you, not necessarily with your company or anything else, but with you. And I think that's where people often forget that. And again, same thing applies for your social media. Same thing applies, I'm quite vocal in terms of from my own point of view and from my own handles for social media, talking on social links channels, for example. I've got no issues with people being able to interact directly with me at the same time as the company, at the same time as the team. And even I encourage the team to all do it as well. We're all individuals, and people get on better with Gareth or myself, or they'll get on better with Anna than me, or they'll get on better with Anna rather than Gareth for whatever reason. It doesn't matter. But that's just the way life is. Like we like other people, we dislike other people, we get on better with other people. And especially for a business transaction where we feel like, I'm investing a lot of money. And that's another thing, actually, I'll come back to the investing word. But you're investing a lot of money. You want to work with someone that makes you feel good about it, that you feel right, that you feel a good connection with. And that's what people need to play on, I think, more, especially in those early stages of companies.
Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, I'm not immune to any of this stuff either. I mean, up until I think it was around this time last year, I didn't even have a photo of myself on my website. I'm a natural introvert. The whole putting yourself out there, all that kind of thing, it just made me uncomfortable. And so I hid behind the logo. But once I got out of that mindset and I pushed myself and I challenged myself, the difference has been night and day. Putting my face on things, doing live videos, which was a massive hurdle for me, doing any kind of video, starting my podcast, all that kind of thing, putting my actual name out there and my face and all the rest of it. It's been night and day different. It really is. But so, yeah, I don't, anytime I give any tough love, most of the time I am doing it to myself as a reminder, because yeah, I'm not immune to it. But sometimes having that objective view and sort of being able to help someone see it. One of my mentors described it very, very well in that you know sometimes you just can't read. Well, you can never read the label of the bottle from inside.
Yeah, I like that one, and it's true. And I think that's something. Actually, I'll ask you a quick question on this as well, and then we'll probably try and wrap up because otherwise you and I can talk for hours. We've figured this one out the last time we met.
Yeah,
but this idea of basically I can't do live videos, I can't do videos, I can't write blogs and everything else. You've literally just said it there, and my team as well did the same thing. Years ago, I started doing videos because we set up an online TV channel. The first ones I did were terrible. The first podcasts we did weren't great. In fact, we didn't even have a name when we first started recording this podcast. It doesn't matter. The idea being no one I know stepped into the ring and was Anthony Joshua and could box the living hell out of anybody else. It just doesn't work that way. So anything that you're going to do, whether it's live videos, whether it's Instagram pictures, whether it's great blog content or instructional videos, whatever it is, your first one isn't going to be great. And that's absolutely fine. Understand that, accept that, and then move forward from it saying, if this one isn't great, the next one will be slightly better. And the one after that will be slightly better than that. And eventually, a year down the line, you'll be like that. I'm smashing these out now. I can jump on. I can have a conversation. I can have a nice chat. I don't feel scared. I don't feel this. I don't feel worried. I don't care what other people think because I've seen good and bad comments now. I can get over that. But it's a process. You know, none of the YouTubers out there that have millions of followers started and went viral and ended up with 2 million followers overnight. None of them. So why would the same thing happen to you? And why would it happen to a business? It doesn't. But there's nothing wrong with that. It's just a process.
And anyone that does, blow up, go instantly viral, they disappear quite quickly. I mean, if you've ever, had a few beers and dance gangman style, you know exactly what that's all about. But it's a similar kind of thing that I help clients understand is stop going for the moonshot. Start trying to improve specific areas of your business by 1% and consistently look at improving those areas by 1% each and every month, because what that starts to do is have that compounding effect. It's the whole tortoise and the hare story, all that kind of thing. If you're waiting around for that lottery win, effectively, you're going to be waiting a long time. So just do the 1% things and do them consistently. And yeah, everybody wants things right now, instant gratification, on demand, everything, all the rest of it. The truth is, it just doesn't happen.
Yeah, I can't remember who said it, but, fast is slow and slow is fast. Trying to do things, knocking something out, and hoping that you're going to get some huge result probably isn't going to work. But actually slowly building, that's actually the quickest way. And again, it comes down, we've talked about it many times, but consistency. Consistently show up and give your audience what they want, or give your potential clients what they want, what they need to find out, what they need to understand. And I think that's the best piece of advice you can give for anyone. Start at zero, like every one of us did. There isn't anybody out there that started at the 100 million followers. No one. They started with 0 and they built up from there. So the same is true for you. Just start and kind of.
And
build
also,
up.
if I can add one other thing in there, Chris, as well, don't try and do it all yourself. Get help. Get external help. Get coaches, mentors in different areas of a business. If you can't find them, try and go and add some value to someone that you could exchange things for. That's my whole sort of alliance piece there. It's because trying to do everything yourself is insanity. And again, I say this from personal experience because that's what I did when I was first doing things. I thought, oh, well, I know how to do marketing and I can do all these fancy funnels and all that kind of thing. I don't need any help. Well, you quickly realize how lonely it can be. And again, it's that was reminded with your saying, a guest on my podcast, he's South African, and he told this African proverb that if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go with a group.
Agreed.
So yeah, you can go fast, but you're going to burn out quite quickly. You need that support. Whether that is from a group you create, but this really comes back, and I'm going to bring it right back to the whole putting social back in social.
Yeah.
Use social as it's supposed to be. Build connections, network, introduce people on social networks. When was the last time you went through your LinkedIn connections or your Facebook friends or anything like that and just saw 2 people and went, that'd be a good fit. I'm just going to tag them in a couple of posts and say, hey, by the way, thought you two, because I've been speaking, with you or blah, 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 whatever it is, you two could do something together, or you could help this person out, da, 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 da. Do that with 3 people a day.
Yeah.
Takes 5 minutes.
Well, the impact is there as well. And like you said, having that group or having those people around you, those mentors, and what doesn't, I always try and be careful because I don't want to sit there and say, hire an agency, because obviously that sounds like I'm being very much just sort of self-centered as to what we're trying to do.
Not everyone needs an agency, and you know that, and that's fine. Not everyone needs the agency side of things, but they need the kind of understanding of what an agency does, because maybe they're not ready for an actual agency right now, but maybe they will be in the future. You still need to understand the value of an agency. You still need to understand the process involved. You still have to know and understand your at least at the basic level, what you want your marketing to do. Know what that goal is.
Yeah.
Understand all of that sort of thing, because we've had a similar discussion. There are sharks in the marketing waters. They exist, and they will take your money and run. Educate yourself just enough so that you're not going to be taken advantage of by that kind of thing. Because whoever, your story, whoever has hired an agency for 2 years and has no idea whether it's doing the right thing for them or not, that agency, obviously I don't know who it is, but they were dining out on that for 2 years thinking, well, this is great. We just got to, do the things that we've said we're going to do and do the deliverables and all the rest of it, and we'll carry on getting paid. Exactly
that. And it's scary. But I'd also say to people as well, creating your own little group, and it doesn't have to necessarily to be mentors, but even people who are in similar situation to you that you can go through this journey with, because I can't remember who it was on the podcast, but basically said, you're not as alone as you think you are. When you're starting a business, it starts to get very lonely because you think it's all on me, everything's stuck, I'm on it. If I don't sort this, nothing will happen. Oh my God, what do we do next month? One thing or another. And actually, looking around you and understanding that you can have conversations. And, people I know are very scared to talk to anyone who's doing something similar to them. Oh my God, we can't talk to them because otherwise they'd buy Adam's solution instead of ours or something. And you're sat there going, why would that have an impact? Like, even if you both did exactly the same thing, which most people don't, most people have a different point of view slightly and one thing or another, and they're different fits and different audiences. But literally, why would it be an issue for you to have a conversation with Adam and talk about the good things, the bad things, something you're struggling with, and maybe he'll ask your opinion on something he's struggling with. But suddenly you have a little network around you of a few different people that you can bounce ideas off, that you can realize you're not alone, and actually something that might just click in that one moment when they say something and you go, oh my God, that's ingenious. I didn't even think of looking at that. Or actually I can recommend someone, stop doing this Excel accounting stuff. Speak to X. She's a great accountant. I really strongly recommend her. Whatever it might be. But that's kind of the whole principle of business, really, isn't it?
It's a whole mindset issue, though. That's an abundance mindset. You need to have that mindset of thinking that there is more than enough out there for everyone. And if it means that one particular client goes to a different competitor, that's fine with me. it means that I have my clients' needs or best needs front and center, because it means that solution was better for them than going with you. That will happen. And yeah, I mean, I've got funny you say about the group. I've fairly recently set up my own sort of mini mastermind group. That there's no charge for it. You know, I keep it small. We have a Facebook group. It's called the Catching Client Partnership Community, and basically we are all there to bounce ideas off of each other. Get on a call once a month and. Just help each other. We form things like joint ventures. We share content. We distribute content for each other. And we just, it's that whole thing of a rising tide lifts all ship. And that is the last nautical fishing reference I'm going to drop on this interview, because it's one of my favorite, because you cannot do this alone. And if you simply have others around you that are on the same path, they get it. Because let's be honest, most of our friends, partners, spouses, all the rest of it, they don't get it. So surround yourself by people that do. Yeah,
and I couldn't agree more. And I think that's a great place to probably end this, actually. And I don't have a nautical themed outro planned for you, I'm afraid. So what I'm going to do though is instead of say, where can people find you online, Adam? Where's the best place for them to connect with you on?
Yeah, so the podcast is the Client Catching Podcast. You can check out the interviews. Ironically enough, Chris's went live today, so his will be on there. So yeah, check that out. What I will also do is I'll set up a page for your listeners. It'll be thinklikeafish.co.uk/Bruno.
Yay!
And what I'll put on there is just really a few of my my best resources. I've got a masterclass which kind of goes into this whole idea of the growth accelerator ecosystem and the 3 growth accelerators. You'll be able to see a couple of training videos that I've done on there, which they're completely free and all the rest of it. And you can also get my my guide, which is called How to Stand Out and Attract Clients in a World of Extroverts and Selfies. And that's all about sort of being an introvert and my journey as an introvert to actually having a business that stands out and allows me to open the doors to conversations and relationships, and how it's transformed everything that I do.
Awesome. Adam, thank you very much. And as always, I think we've probably gone much longer than we thought we were going to, but that's purely because of the fact that we could both carry on talking about this for hours on end. I'm sure this isn't the last convo we're going to have, and I'm sure it's not the last time we'll be together talking about these sorts of things.
It's secretly, Chris, because I'm insanely jealous about your upcoming trip to Bali, and I'm trying to get you to miss your plane.
I'll try and call you a couple of times from Bali. Adam, thank you very much again, and look forward to catching up soon.
Awesome. Thanks very much, Chris.
The All About Digital Marketing podcast is brought to you by Social Inc., a distributed digital marketing agency specialised in delivering results through online campaigns. Whether it's content marketing, social media marketing, online advertising or web design, we've got you covered, from strategy through to delivery. If you're struggling with your digital marketing, get in touch today by simply visiting www.socialinc.co.